Well, depending on your time zone, good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of ASA's Webinar Wednesday. Today's session will talk about best secrets to grow your car count with Tim Ross and Madison Sosby. You know, it's a competitive market for automotive repair out there, and growing the business requires a focus on reaching out to your current and potential customers. In this webinar, you're going to discover the perfect integrated marketing plan for your shop, and you'll learn how to utilize your shop's data successfully in your marketing tactics from our industry experts. You're going to learn how data is important in marketing, what direct mail can be combined with digital tactics, and get some effective results from omni-channel marketing. Again, I want to introduce our presenters today, Tim Ross and Madison Sosby. Tim and Madison, hi, and welcome to the webinar.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you both. Before we get started, I do have some housekeeping. My name is Tony Mala. I'm ASA's Vice President of Industry Relations and your host for our webinar Wednesdays. Before we get started, I'm going to give you some tips for an optimal webinar experience. If you've joined this webinar, you're in listen-only mode, which means you're on mute. So for those of you who have dialed in by phone, be sure to select telephone and enter your audio pin in the audio panel to eliminate any echo. Also, we will be taking questions today. If you have any questions, you can use our question and answer feature. You'll see illustrated on the screen, there's a questions box on your control panel. If you click on the little triangle on the left, it'll open up the questions box. You can type your question there and then click send, and we will get that and address those questions, as many as possible, at the end of the session. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And without further ado, I will turn it over to Tim and Madison. Again, guys, welcome and thank you. And we'll look forward to hearing what you have to say. Take it away.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys giving us a chance to talk with you guys today. Today, we're talking about our best secret to grow your car count. There's a lot of tactics out there. We're going to talk about how it all works together, because I think it can be confusing as an owner, as you guys are inundated with different sales strategies telling you to do this and do that. And so we thought we'd have a little fact-finding mission a little bit for you guys and give you some basics. And we hope that you guys, at the end of the day, you come around with some basic understanding of how tactics work, and then you can decide what would be applicable to you. So we'll go ahead and move forward through the slides. As I said, my name is Tim Ross. I'm president and co-founder. It used to be called Mudlick Mail, and recently acquired a few years ago by a company, and we rebranded to Upswell. We have the wonderful Madison with us, who handles all of our digital. So she is going to be chiming in and letting you kind of know how that's working in the automotive repair industry. So we look forward to spending some time with you. All right, so we'll keep moving forward. Today's topics that we're going to talk about: how data is important for marketing. Which, that's one of the things, if I can't stress enough, is that, it's time to make decisions really not anecdotally and not by the gut. There's enough information out there that you can make some decisions on what tactic to use to market, how much should you spend, and really what should your return on investment be. And so I'd encourage you to work with partners and vendors out there who are in line with you on that, where they're able to share that kind of information with you. We're going to talk about utilizing direct mail with digital tactics. It is a omni-channel world out there, and the new buzzword, I guess, right, Madison, is integrated, right? An integrated marketing program. And so it is important. I think the days of just doing one thing, back in the day, as I turned that glorious age of 50 this year, right, I've learned that most people, when I say yellow pages, don't even know what I mean. But there used to be the day where that's all you had to do, right? And now, fast forward to where we're at today in 2021, and technology and how people ingest information is so different from industry to industry, from person to person, from generation to generation. So it's important that you as an owner know not only how the tactics work but how do you blend them together and create an effective omni-channel marketing program. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We'll keep moving forward. And new and existing customers, that's one of the things that's, and this is a common theme, everybody kind of probably agrees with this, right? Existing customers are your lifeblood of your business, but gaining new customers are also critical for your growth. You've got to be able to not only retain and nurture and grow the ones you have, but you also have to be able to bring those in. So the tactics that you choose to use at your automotive repair shop have to include both tactics, because we'd love to be able to say everybody sticks around and no one's going to leave us, but people move around. Unfortunately, people pass away, they have a bad experience for whatever reason. We're only able to retain a portion of those. So we've got to be able to bring in some new people to replace those people. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as well. And we'll keep moving forward. So what stage is your business in? I think this is important as a business owner to really kind of understand where you stand, because where you stand as a business will decide kind of where your marketing tactics should be. And for us, we really break it down into 3 buckets. One is kind of that stage 1 launch and early stage, right? These are your grand openings, people fairly new to the marketplace, whether it's a renaming or it's a brand new company that you just opened up. But that's where you have usually you have limited time and budget. There's some operational demands. As you as an owner, you're working in the business, not just on the business, right? And a lot of people don't know you. So you're trying to break out. So there's a plan for that, and I think it's important that you understand that stage, because the marketing directions that you take could be much different. Stage 2, growth and expansion, right? This is a fairly mature store, but they're fairly new still, right? So you're growing in the marketplace. You don't have a lot of competition, but you're wanting to gain market share. So how do you market your business if you're in that phase? Or stage 3, where it is a mature business, right? But maybe you're stagnant or in decline. Maybe, there's a lot of customers we work with around the country that started out in a market that was just on fire, only to be 10 years later, and it's a completely different market. You have different ethnicities living in there. You have different income levels living in there. The higher income folks have just moved, right? Or the best neighborhoods have moved around. And so you might have a lot of competition in certain markets around the country, in Texas and Colorado, for instance, super high competitive automotive markets. So you're getting a lot of people that are seeing the growth in places like Parker, Colorado, and Denver and all those areas. Houston, Texas, one of the most competitive markets in the country. So how are you handling that? And then you have that, as I mentioned earlier, you might be losing market share, not only because you have more competitors in there, but it's a flat shrinking marketplace. People are moving away, things are different. A lot of times we'll work with companies where, there was a big manufacturing place in town and that place went out of business, and they were getting 90% of their business there. So how do you handle that? So it's important as your first step before you spend any marketing dollars is to figure out, hey, what stage of my business life am I in? So with that, we'll move on to the next slide. So then how do you assess it? And so for us, it's really a 4-step process, right? We call it assess, create, implement, and optimize. And this is really kind of business 101, but I wanted to break it down for you. You can use this really in any industry, but let's talk about it from an automotive standpoint, right? One is we want to evaluate how your business is doing. What's your goals? What kind of customers you have bringing in? What kind of existing marketing you're doing? Are you touching your existing customers with emails or postcards, or what kind of social media interaction do you have with them? What kind of growth opportunities do we have at your market? Are there areas that you haven't marketed before? Across the highway, across the lake, areas that you might have overlooked, right? We're able to actually assess your market and find out where customers are coming from. For us, we call them customer penetration reports, right? Where we can ingest your data, find out where customers are physically coming from. It not only helps us profile your customer, but it helps us figure out where are you strong and where are you weak, and we can help them use that assessment to move forward. And then we go to step 2, which is where we create your plan, right? For us, we're automotive experts, right? We've been doing automotive for almost 15 years. We work with thousands of shops around the country. We've seen everything possible, right? And so understanding how an automotive repair shop works, what's going on in the industry, market by market, will help us create materials for you that will help you stand out, whether that's offers. Are you competitive based on your marketplace? Based on the competitive intelligence, do you have the right offers? Or do you have the right consistency of marketing, the right frequency? Do you have the right mix of marketing, the different tactics? And so we're going to work with you to create that plan, all within a budget. And that budget and that plan are going to be based on what your goals and expectations are, right? And we're going to be able to track and measure it. And a lot of customers, you start with an idea, where you want to be, right? And then you start somewhere else and you work your way up to that goal. You don't have to jump there in one full swoop. So we'll create the plan that makes sense for you. And then we implement, right? We use our best practices, all that industry expertise I mentioned, this is where it pays off, right? We're going to set you up. We'll launch these marketing initiatives. and we'll start tracking this, right? Our goal is to drive in more people to your business. We're going to track it, optimize, we're going to monitor it, we're going to make sure that it's working well. We're also going to listen to customer calls on our side. We want to make sure and this is something you guys should do as owners, but for us for our customers, we actually have call tracking numbers on there. We'll actually listen in on some of those calls, not as a gotcha thing, but from an owner's perspective, we want you to know, and you're going to want to know, hey, I'm spending all this time training and spending money on marketing. Are we executing correctly at the front counter? And so, because that's an easy way to accidentally and unintentionally sabotage a marketing campaign when the folks at the front counter, they don't know what kind of marketing is going out. They don't know the offers or the specials or how you want to walk them through the script, or maybe you get someone who just likes to kind of go off on their own and they don't follow the script you want. It's really important part of the implementation phase that critical element of observation and listening is important. And then we go into last is optimize, right? And that's where we need to look at the data, look at the analytics, look at the call tracking numbers. For us, we have advanced dashboard and reporting tools, so we really know who got a postcard, who was serving up an ad, who came in, how much did they spend, are they a new customer, existing customer? All these data points are really important for you guys. What's their ARO? Heck, we can even get more detailed, and you can, as a customer, you can get even more detailed by understanding how productive individual employees are, right? But once we have all that information, then we optimize, right? The days of set it and forget it are over with, right? You guys should be working with people and partners that can evaluate your data. And sometimes Madison's on calls every week. It's not every month, right? And so with direct mail, it's more once a month. With digital tactics, it may be every week, right? But your market changes, it moves, your business evolves. You've got to be able to optimize results on a frequent basis. So you need to work with people that have that capability. Very good. All right, as we move forward, we did a survey, and I thought this was really important for you guys to kind of know. Like when we helped kind of decide how to guide our customers, one of the things we thought of is, man, we should be talking to consumers out there that buy this service, and let's find out from them why are they making some decisions. And so some of the questions we asked are, well, how long do you plan to keep your current car? And so what we found was 30% of the respondents are planning to keep their car for 6 years or longer. And a lot of you guys that own shops already know you're seeing older cars, even though some new cars are being bought, which nowadays are more expensive than they've ever been, right? If you ever try to turn in a used car right now, you're getting almost the price of what you paid for the car if it's a truck or some of those other hard to get vehicles, right? So people are holding on to their cars. They're unsure of their job stability. They're unsure of how this COVID thing might affect them. They're just unsure, and so they're holding on to their cars even longer. And so for you guys, that's great news. So as we move on to the next slide, 11.9 years was the average. And for you guys that are on the call, I think we had about 1,000 respondents that we kind of reached out to, male, female, different ages, and we wanted to kind of gather this information. So this is all great for automotive repair shop owners, right? Because we want cars that are older, they break down, people want to hold on to them. That's great business for us. All right, let's keep moving through the presentation. The next question was, how far would you consider driving for automotive services? This was a great one. So 27 minutes, right? Now that seems like that's a really far distance. If you've ever driven for 27 minutes, that's really, really far. Well, why that's important to you guys? Well, I say that because you may have a lot of existing customers or their business people that maybe live around or work around your shop, but they live somewhere else where they may drive that particular distance. But what I think is important to you guys to know is that we can evaluate where your customers are coming from, and you should work with partners that can evaluate it to see, is 27 minutes too far? If you flip to the next slide, one of the things that we thought was also important was, how do you normally decide which auto repair shop to visit? And so what we were told is, and we kind of listed them, if you look down word of mouth, word of mouth, Google, and direct mail are your top three. So why is word of mouth important? That's someone at your shop gave a great personal experience, right? They had a positive experience at your business from your employees, from curb appeal, from everything, right? And so that is by far, none of us marketing gurus, or we call ourselves gurus, right? We're never going to be able to beat that. We're never going to be able to beat positive experiences from customers and word of mouth. That's the best way. But from there, Google obviously is something that's got to be a part of your plan. And for us, we spend a lot of time working with our customers to decide how much pay-per-click should you spend. and what should your return be? What's your competitors doing? What kind of negative keywords should you be using? And so Google now has gotten to the point where there's a way to really maximize it, and you got to have someone who kind of knows what they're doing, and you got to be able to pay attention to it, right? You can't just say, hey, we're going to spend $300, $400, $500, $1,000, and everything looks great. You really need to evaluate it each. Sometimes, again, Madison's evaluating it weekly, but at least once a month to kind of help it decide how do we improve it. And then direct mail. It's the one thing these days that sometimes people forget, but it's very personal. It goes in the mailbox. It's not actually in decline. And it's a great touch, and nowadays, you guys are usually the only one in the mailbox. So you're able to kind of hit people multiple ways, right? You got people giving good praise about your business. There's Google reviews. You've got people searching you online, and then you get direct mail. And remember, direct mail, postcard, what I thought was really interesting is postcards are the #1 offline tactic to drive online traffic, right? And everybody knows that, right? You get something in the mail, what's the first thing you do, right? You go right online. And so those 3 tactics work very well. Radio, television, billboards, magazine, newspapers are ones that are falling off a little bit because they do lack the targeting, they lack the tracking. And the biggest thing is you're not able to isolate your customer base. Even some of the radio and television have gotten better about trying to get more onto a zip code level, right? And cable stations. The question is between viewership and between DVRs, and are you really hitting people that meet your criteria? It's really hard, right? So I'm not saying don't use it. I'm saying make sure you're getting good results with any of these tactics in order to spend money with them. So, all right, let's move forward as we keep rolling. Another question we asked were, what are your deciding factors for choosing an auto repair shop? And so, again, this is where, and I'll have, we'll put them all up there. This is, I think, was really important, right? Value pricing, not cheap, right? But fair value pricing, all right? And so this is where we tell people sometimes it's hard to create that image unless you're giving them a reason to come see you. And so in the automotive repair industry, right, the #1 thing that a lot of shops sometimes don't like to do, but they really have to do is an oil change. If you really want customer growth. Now, if you're happy with your current customers, man, you're in good shape. But if you want to grow your business and you need more customers, that and the safety emission testing are usually your 2 top ones, but you get them in there and then they understand the value that you can provide them, right? No company can really show you that value and really give you a good feel of what their pricing is until you actually come visit them. So we've got to figure out a way to get people in the door so they can truly experience it. And then from there, you still have to give a good positive review, right? I mean, reviews are online. It's important. I know sometimes it's a pain in the butt because you got disenfranchised people that maybe are putting things on there that aren't right, but you still have to pay attention to it, right? Because people are looking at it. And then convenience. And that's the top 3. And the convenience one I want to spend an extra second on because when you talk about convenience, you talk about your people that are closest to your location, right? We find that most buyers of auto repair, the 2 factors you have to consider are convenience and competition, right? If the more convenient you are, the more likely that customer is going to come to your location. But also, the further you get away, how many other auto repair shops do they have to go by before they get to you, right? And even though we all like to say, hey, we're the best in town, the loyalty sometimes with convenience and lowball pricing, sometimes we don't get that luxury, right? So for us as a marketing company, on a direct mail standpoint, we're able to figure out where your customers are coming from and make sure we're hitting those customers that have middle high income closest to your business. And from a digital standpoint, same concept, right? We can target digitally the same people that are high and tight into your business as we can with direct mail. And so you have this concerted effort of focusing all your marketing where your people live and where you're the most competitive in the market, right? And that's how you get great returns. So anyways, great information there for us to think about when we're spending money and you're buying different marketing tactics. Are the tactics that you're buying conducive to where your customers are coming from, right? And so that's important. All right, as we move forward, last question I believe is what do you consider as good auto service, right? What's good auto service? And so that question is 78% of the response believe that fair price equates to good auto service, right? And so I think a lot of you guys would probably agree to that is that's, relative to the market, it's relative to the store, but the important part is if you give good auto service, people will then believe that the pricing that you're giving them is fair, right? And so it's important for that, there's no marketing in the world that can that can help on that standpoint. We can bring the customers to you from different avenues, but it's the good auto service that really is going to be the ones that not only get them to buy, but get them to come back. Okay, so let's move forward. Last question, I believe. Gosh, I thought it was the last question. How many times a year do you get your car serviced? I thought this was interesting. You have 1,000 some people, right? And if you look at it, people, for which repairs does each age group range? And this is like different age groups, right? And so from a dealer standpoint, look how many people come, right? 30%, almost 40 for brand specialists, right? The age groups, 18 to 29 is orange. Purple is 30 to 44, and green is 45 to 60. Look at the locally owned shops in the middle. Independent shops have an advantage if you guys get the word out. If you guys market your business and get people to come to you, those folks that are 18 to 60 do have a preference to come to a locally owned shop. There's a lot of push for locally owned people to buy local products and services, right? So it's your job as an owner to make sure you're putting the word out on the street about that you're available, you want their business, you offer great pricing, great service, and you can tell just by the data that people are actually prefer to see you. So your job is to make sure they do see you, and the marketing is what will do that for you. All right, let's keep moving forward. All right, so we know how to find customers, and here's important, and this is where I'm going to eventually pass this over to Madison. People live, work, and play differently. This is a great new concept we kind of came up with a couple of years ago. You think about your auto repair shop and where it's located, right? You know the people that live right around them. You're going to target them with postcards or digital ads, and you're going to focus on driving them into your shop. But remember, in addition to people who live around you, there are people who work around you. You can't mail a postcard there, right? And there's people who play around you, meaning it's people who go to church or restaurants, shopping malls, people that are gathering around, that 2-3 mile radius who might not know you're around. And we get people who have been in business for 40 years, and all of a sudden you get someone with a postcard that comes in and says, man, I didn't know you were here. I've lived here for 20 years. I didn't know you were here. And so it's important that that integrated marketing approach is what really drives this concept, because there's got to be ways that you guys are reaching out, and it's going to be digitally reaching out to people who are working around you and who are playing around you, so that you're expanding your audience, you're expanding your consumer base to beyond just people who live around you. Because think of yourself as a consumer, right? You probably go to work, and your dentist, your doctor, your shops, your auto repair are all either by where you work or where you live, right? 90% of our day-to-day activities usually off of one of those two areas. So as a part of that assessment process that I mentioned earlier, and that planning process for us is understanding that and helping build that into a plan. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's move forward. Bringing your best customers with targeted direct mail. So a lot of you guys, one of the questions I always get asked when I'm out and about around the country, and I see a lot of you guys at different events. I've been in the industry, as you guys know, for about 15 years, and I started this with Greg Sands way back in the day. And I just wanted to give more of a definition for people, because sometimes people think postcards are all the same, but a lot of our customers use it in 3 different ways. And so what way is most important to you will depend on what your goals and what your needs are. Again, every store and every market is different, but most of our customers that are trying to grow their business are using that neighborhood saturation, right? That medium high income people that are right around your business. It's a low cost option, right, that you can get out there. And when you send a postcard, you're usually getting a non-coupon shopper, right? It's sending an individual postcard much different than like the shared mail pieces with Valpak and some of those. Those are all great, and those are more of a coupon shopper. So you'll tend to get more customers, but they're more price sensitive customers, which means there's a little less opportunity for your upsells when you do your PMIs, and the loyalty is not as strong because they're very price sensitive people. They tend to move around, right? They're the people that, will go, an extra 5 miles to save 5 cents on gas, those people, right? And so you have to decide which customer do you want. You can have either one of them. There's not a right or wrong answer, but you need to know which one, that type of customer that those bring in. The specialty list is we work with a lot of European shops. We work with people who are really wanting to target real specific types of vehicles, right? And so you're not going to want to hit everybody in the neighborhood if your focus is European shops. If you're just hitting BMWs and Mercedes, you want to keep it down to where you're focused just on certain vehicles. Like a lot of our European shops, they want people that where the car is out of warranty, but it's not a car that's so old it's at a buy here pay here lot, right? So you're looking at like a 2010 to 2018 model year. A person makes maybe 50, 70, 100 grand. It depends on what market, right? 50 grand in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you're probably doing pretty well for yourself. 50 grand in Los Angeles, California, you're probably not doing so well, right? And so building income qualifiers, going after specific model and specific years of models, that helps you guys target in a real specific customer based on the niche. And the last one, which I think is the most important, one of the most important ones, is client supplied. You should be reaching out and touching your existing customers at least a couple of times a year. Now, a lot of you guys are hopefully using an email program or some sort of a CRM program, right? And you're touching these folks. But you also know that a lot of CRM programs only mail out postcards or send emails a couple of times a year, and they fall off the radar of those CRM programs. So for us, we take a lot of our customers where they've fallen off the CRM program, or maybe you don't have a CRM program, and 2 or 3 times a year, we'll go out and look at customers that have spent $200 or more, haven't been in the last 6 months, and those are the ones that we'll send out postcards to. And we may also create more of an integrated program, right, where you're sending postcards, maybe you're doing mobile geofencing. You may even add in some social media into that area. But going after existing customers who have the best relationship with you is definitely a big win. You're seeing, when you think about neighborhood saturation specialists, when you market those guys, 0.5 to 1% response rates, right? I mean, so you're driving in people, it's making you good money. But when you talk about client supplied, you're talking about 8, 10, 15% response rates. Average AROs in the $400, $500, $600, $800 range versus neighborhood saturation, brand new person, and maybe they spend $100 or $200 with you, right? So just wanting you guys to really understand the difference of your marketing so that when you're working through that process on what's important to you, if you don't need a lot of new business, then going after client supplied is probably just stay focused and in front of your customers. If you need a lot of new customers, then you need to make sure that you're going after them with new neighborhood or saturation or list mailings, because the focus is new customers. So great information. We'll keep moving forward. And so how does it work? So for us, we're going to review your current marketing efforts. We kind of talked about this earlier. We're going to identify who your target audience are, and Madison's going to talk a little bit about that in digital here in a second. We'll help determine what your best format is. How should you target these people? We're going to put together some custom designs and promotions for you that are based on your shop. I think you got to have that individual look and feel. We'll work together on a print and mail campaign for you if it's direct mail, right? And then we'll build in some analysis afterwards. We'll set the expectations on what we should achieve, and then we'll track it for 4 weeks and make sure that we hit those numbers. And so that's kind of how our campaign from start to finish types works. And Madison then will kick in and talk a little bit about the digital side. Go ahead and advance. There we go. All right, Madison, take it away.
Thank you. All righty, let's dive on into some digital advertising and how it can help your shop. So mail to mobile is an awesome option that you can actually add on to your direct mail piece. This is a service that focuses on amplifying your direct mail by serving mobile ads to the same exact households that are also receiving that direct mail piece. The goal is to hit the client or the prospect with a mobile ad before and after they receive 4 extra impressions. It has a great tool after the campaign is finished to go through and actually see the physical visitors that showed up to the shop from this campaign. So when the lead enters your conversion zone, which is ultimately your shop, it's pinged as a conversion, which is great to use to evaluate your campaign for the next month. Moving on to the next slide, we're going to focus on Google pay-per-click. Pay-per-click is also known as search engine marketing or just Google search. This is actually the best way to have your business show up as the #1 option on Google. We all want to search certain keywords or phrases on Google and have our business show up as the #1 option. So this is done through bidding on relevant keywords that are chosen based on specific competitor reports as well as additional market research. Some of the benefits from PPC are, of course, that it's measurable. You can track how many conversions, clicks, phone calls, etc. from your specific ads. Of course, as Tim mentioned previously, PPC is also a very highly targeted digital tactic which means that only people within your specific target audience and geographic area are going to be receiving your ads. On to the next slide. Think of PPC as your digital direct mail piece. You're determining your target audience, what offers or services you'd like to promote, and setting a budget based on your specific goals. So it's crucial that before you even consider PPC in your marketing strategy, that you have a company website up and running, because the goal is to drive your consumers there to book an appointment or to call in for more information depending on your offer. Moving on to our next digital tactic, targeted display ads. We refer to these typically as TDAs. So TDAs are going to be more of your brand awareness play. These ads are served up on the display network, which actually includes over 2 million websites. The goal with TDAs is to ensure that your ad is being seen on top websites that your potential customers are visiting. Another cool tool with TDAs is that you can use it as a retargeting option. Reality is a lot of your consumers aren't necessarily going to convert after being shown one ad. So retargeting helps increase your conversion percentage by increasing the frequency that your ads are shown. Moving on to social media. So we're all familiar with Facebook and Instagram. An easy way to reach audiences with similar traits to your current customer base is through a lookalike audience on social. Facebook and Instagram have an awesome tool where you can upload a custom list, and Facebook will help you find people who are extremely similar to that list. You can push out custom branded ads that are unique to your shop, and help find potential prospects wherever. This can be done through videos, GIFs, static images. Social media is a great tool to reach potential customers as well as your current customers through organic social. Our next slide, we're going to wrap up our digital services with our Digital Booster 2.0. This is a very unique concept that helps you reach your customer wherever they are, whether it's where they work, live, or play, whether it's offline in their mailbox or online on Facebook, or even at your competitor through geofencing. The more you can get your message in front of your potential customers, the more likely they are to convert. The most successful marketing campaigns that we've seen use this omni-channel approach that includes both print and digital. As you can see on the slide, the Digital Booster 2.0 program combines your direct mail, your social media, your mobile, and your display ads to create one awesome campaign. Moving on to the next slide. So why should you care? You need to build the foundation first before any marketing tactics can be successful. The foundation starts with your website and your Google My Business page. These are basically how your customers are going to find you and receive more information about you. Once this is completed, you can move on to your monthly fundamental tactics. Like Tim mentioned earlier, this is where we recommend adding in Google. Pay-per-click is where you're going to get your potential customers where they're already searching. The next step is your direct mail. This is your quarterly tactic at a minimum. This should be planned out and strategic throughout the year with your specific marketing vendor. The next two building blocks are your community outreach and your brand advertising. There are many different ways that you can achieve these through your different marketing tactics and even events that are going on right there in your local community. Like Tim mentioned, your reputation and those reviews mean so much. So as we start building up these basic building blocks, we need to make sure that you are positioning yourself as a brand leader and a leader in your community. So focus on building that brand trust and recognition after that foundation has been completed. On the next slide, we wanted to highlight a case study that was done through our Mail to Mobile program. Remember, this is the combination of direct mail with mobile advertising. So this specific client was a regional auto shop with 36 locations that simply wanted to grow their car count, as many of you also would like to do. As you can see on the presentation, the Mail to Mobile program generated 363 cars with a 3.61% return on investment. The total revenue generated from this specific campaign was over $68,000. If you're interested in checking out any of these specific case studies, we urge you to head on over to our website. It's upswellmarketing.com to check them out. And if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out. We have our contact information at the end of this presentation. So let's recap. We talked about data and why it's important in your marketing plan. The omni-channel approach is the best way to reach your target audience, both online and offline. And reviewing data on a monthly basis is crucial to developing your perfect strategy to grow your car count. Reality is, every location is different, and you need to pinpoint your perfect omni-channel approach. If you're looking to amplify your direct mail pieces and get ahead of your competition, consider adding in those digital products that complement your direct mail piece to serve those additional impressions to your audience. As previously stated, the best performing marketing campaigns are a combination of that print and digital. So consider options moving into the holiday season to really grow your car count November, December, and into 2022. Next slide. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Tony, I think I will send this back to you.
Sounds good, Madison. Thanks. And that was a great presentation, guys. If you want a copy of this presentation, write down this email, grow@upswellmarketing.com. And Tim and Madison will be happy to send you a copy of it. In addition, we'll talk about this more about this later, but we are recording this presentation, so you can always come back and watch it to get some more information that you might have missed the first time around. I have a ton of questions. So if you guys want to settle in, we've got a few things I'd like to go over with you.
Let's hear them.
Okay. You know what? I'm going to actually start at the beginning. Even though the stuff you just presented, I have a lot of questions about the social media side of the equation. But focusing on the data for a second, a lot of shops have been in business for years. ASA members tend to be among the older, more well-established businesses in their communities. And most of them have a significant database they build up. Now, as you say, it has to be cleaned from time to time. People move, people, die, whatever. But can you tell me what factors are most important when you're mining customer data these days? Is it the age of the customer or the vehicle? Is it the location? Is it the relationship that you build up? What should we look for when we're looking at our data?
Yeah, I'll grab that one. So for the data, I tell you, for us, it's really a couple of things. One, and most importantly, by taking in the data and we've taken data from folks that have had 10, 15, 20 years worth of data, right? It's finding out, well, where's the customer penetration at around that business? Like, what particular neighborhoods are they coming from? Because once we kind of know where they're coming from, it allows us to kind of back into kind of some profiles, like, is there a typical median age or household income or home value? Are people, from certain parts of town? Are we, sometimes even with the most mature shops, we'll find little pockets of areas around a business where they've got very little penetration, but they're the closest shop in town, but they just haven't had any kind of marketing of any sorts into that particular area. And so that is probably one of the most important ones. Now, as we dig a little deeper, and a lot of these POS systems these days have gotten a lot more sophisticated, where we can pull reports, or those cloud-based ones. These are ones that we can actually not only ingest that geographic information, but some of that other information, like how many customers, how many new customers do they get? How many, per week, per month, per year? How many existing customers do they have? What are their lost customers? People that haven't been back in the last 12 months. What do they look like and where are they located? And understanding those three components helps us build out a marketing plan on how to attack those folks, right? We can get even deeper in understanding what's the traditional ARO, what's the average repair order, how often do people come in for service? We did a study for a couple hundred automotive repair shops out on the West Coast, and they challenged us and said, hey, why are we mailing to existing people? I want to suppress all those people out. Why are we marketing at all to those people? They're coming in anyway. And what we found at a 20,000 foot view is when you market to existing customers, they tend to come in 1 to 2 times more than they would than if you just left them alone. And even when they come in, they tend to spend 10 to 15, 20% more than what they spend just if they came in on their own. And so I think what's important is not only knowing where your customers are coming from, what they look like, what's their frequency of coming to your business, but is there a way to use a very inexpensive tactic to get existing customers to come back in? Imagine if you could have every one of your existing customers come back in one more time in the course of a year. How would that impact your overall sales for the year? And so for us, those are the main data points that we work on to help build out the plan on where to mail these folks and how to attack them. And then once we really have that, Madison can take that same geographic information and use geofencing and social media and even a localized pay-per-click campaign and try to help maximize our plan to try to attack those people to come back in. I don't know if you would add anything, Madison.
Yeah, definitely. Typically what we ask for when it comes to the list is just the city, state, zip, and then first name, last name. We're able to take that and create those custom audiences and lookalike audiences to really capitalize on those lists for social media.
Interesting. You know, and it sounds like you had mentioned earlier, make sure the front desk is critical and as important, you know, it knows what's going on, because that's as important as good service in most cases. A lot of the independent shops built their reputations on the relations that they have, and I think that was shown in some of the graphics that you had. But Madison, to your point, Tim, you had mentioned geolocation, and that was a question I had for you, Madison. You mentioned those TDAs, okay? Are they geolocated so that if as a shop owner, it does no good for me if I'm in Pennsylvania and a person's in Washington is looking at a website and sees my ad. So are those ads tailored for the local area that the person viewing the website would be?
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, it's tailored to that geographic location. It can also have things like certain interests. Is someone interested in specific things? It kind of goes down to that specialty list as well that Tim was mentioning. So if we're working with a European shop, okay, well, we know we want to focus on specific car brands, and we can use those certain pieces of data to really get targeted for any type of digital, not just TDAs.
Interesting. And staying on the digital for a second, I love the idea of the metrics. You know, one of the biggest challenges we have is how effective is this really? You know, what's my ROI? And it seems like you can provide that to a fairly granular degree, which is great. But just in general terms, I'm not looking for an actual dollar value here, more like a percentage. But you had mentioned on a couple of those charts that you had some price differences between, say, SEM and direct mail. What are the price impacts between a pure direct mail plan plus one that is social media and then a combined version of the two? What sort of budget do you think you should have as a shop?
Yeah, I think to me, I'll chime in first. So I think the budget we try to set for shops is really based on what their goals and expectations are. You know, are they trying to grow 10 cars a week, or they need to grow 10 cars a month? You know, and so what we'll work together as a team is to build that out, knowing, you know, what we'll understand is what are the conversion rates, right? Like if on our digital spend and our direct mail, you know, it becomes a math problem, right? We know that if we send out a certain amount of direct mail postcards with the right offers to the right people, we're going to get that 0.5 to 1% response rate, right? And we know from the customer's data what kind of ARO they're going to have, right? So we can kind of do the math on, you know, how many customers we can generate and what kind of revenue that money will generate for that shop. And then on the digital side, you know, Madison uses the same kind of formula, right? She'll understand what the click-through rate is and what the conversion rate is, and she'll be able to tell kind of how many leads you're going to get. Am I on track there, Madison?
Yeah, absolutely. So also looking at your as well, we have a tool that actually look at a number of your competitors, exactly what they're running on, say, Google search or even social media. And that helps us learn how we can capitalize with your ads, where we need to focus on certain keywords that we need to use to really develop a successful campaign and to, of course, beat out your competitors.
How do you determine a market area? I'm just curious.
Well, for us, the best way are you talking about from a social standpoint or a digital standpoint or from a postcard standpoint?
Both.
Madison, why don't you start with the social side or the digital side?
Yeah, so like Tim had mentioned earlier, we like to take that current customer list and actually do a pin map. So we can see where most of your current customers are coming from. And this is going to tell us, okay, we need to focus on this area a little bit more and push out more ads to this area versus this one. And a lot of information will come from that pin map. And then, of course, we can get down to the nitty gritty and focus on some of those interests that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, same thing for the postcard side, right? We're going to take that customer data and run it through our system to try to figure out where the customer penetration is. And so that's that power of data, right? Whether it's digital or whether it's print. And that's why we're seeing a lot of people, that we're using and we're doing postcards with are having us pick up some of their digital work because it's the same concept, right? And you can use the same metrics and we can put it on one dashboard to kind of see the results. So just can't encourage people enough to focus on the data and make decisions based on data with whoever you're working with.
Interesting. And how targeted can you be with these lists and stuff? I was surprised, Madison, you had mentioned similar traits. You can find people with, similar likes, whatever. How targeted can lists get, either digitally or direct mail these days?
Go ahead.
They can get pretty targeted. As far as the custom lists, of course, the more information we receive on that list, the more accurate it's going to be, right? So normally if it's like your current customer, like I said, we ask for first name, last name, city, state, zip. But there are so many different specialty lists that you can have pulled that show certain interest or certain purchases, and you can take that into account as well.
Yeah, and nowadays I always tell people be careful what you sign up for, what you register, what you get warranties on. The data business is just a big business, and I know Facebook got their hands slapped a little while ago for some of that, but I guess the cool and scary thing combined is, using census data, using transactional data, we can get pretty finite from a mailing perspective. We can know exactly the people that live in those homes and what their socioeconomic kind of status is, and that's how we kind of help select those routes. And I can give that same list to Madison, and she can actually serve up social ads and geofence around that same exact house. And Madison can get even scarier where she can go out and find lookalikes of people that look kind of like that in that same general area. And so it's really incumbent upon the partners to really provide the vendors like us to really build out what that plan could look like. And some people are more basic and some people are more integrated. It really just depends on what your goals and expectations are. But the ability to target even like people who specifically own specific cars. Imagine if you own a BMW, that's a 2016 BMW, you make 50,000 and you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I can get that off of a list and I can send a postcard to you at the same time. Madison is geofencing your house, serving up ads to you through the ad exchange on your cell phone while also trying to find you in Facebook and deliver you an ad that way, because we just don't know which way you're ingesting information. So we're going to send it in the mail, we're going to pop it on your phone, and if you happen to be a Facebook person, you're going to see it then as well. And so that's that combination of touches that Madison made earlier. That's how a lot of shops are really kind of pulling ahead of other shops. I mean, certainly you have to have operational excellence, you have to have good people. Staffing right now, I know in this industry is a challenge on the technician side, but if you have the operational back of the house stuff going and you really put together a comprehensive, aggressive marketing strategy, this is how some of the shops, you wonder, how are they doing $2 million a year, on 6 bays? This is how they do it.
Interesting. Well, I'm fascinated by how targeted things are these days. I know just in my own personal experience, we shop at a local grocery store, and we get in the mail coupons, and the coupons match almost exactly our last shopping list. It's just incredible. Okay. And that really works. I mean, this is stuff I buy every day, that kind of thing. But you had mentioned vehicles. We're talking basically about vehicle data and customer demographics, and actually vehicle demographics too. Is one better than the other, or more effective than the other, or does it depend on the person, the situation, the area, whatever? How effective are both of those dynamics, the vehicle and the customer?
I'll start from a postcard perspective. I think it depends on the shop. If you're a specialty shop, then that vehicle information is critical, right? Because, if you're a European shop, or you focus on Japanese cars, or maybe you're just an EV type place, you just don't want to have all these other people coming in that don't meet your criteria. So you'd be spending a lot of money targeting people that really aren't your criteria. So if it's a specialty shop, that list becomes mission critical. If you're general auto repair, it becomes a little bit less critical. We've had people try to do things like, hey, I only want to target homes that have certain types of vehicles, or people who have vehicles, period. You can do that, but sometimes it gets so expensive to exclude that it's cheaper just to include, right? So you're going to have 5 or 10% spoilage. It's cheaper to mail out and market to people from a print standpoint by hitting just everybody who kind of meets the general criteria. I mean, Madison has a much more targeted approach when she can do it from the digital side, I would assume.
Right, for sure. Just to use an example, we've actually had some shops in the past that have focused their offers specifically on people who have birthdays in October.
Oh.
So in that case, you want more information on the client specifically. Of course, like Tim said, depending on the shop, there's going to be some additional information that is needed, but you can get extremely specific when it comes to both the shop or the vehicle and the client.
Interesting. And direct mail still works. I know a lot of people wonder about that, but you had mentioned Upswell basically was Mudlick, and that's a name that I've known for years. So I know that you know from whence you speak, as they say. Okay.
Yeah, but, it's funny. I started the company with Greg Sands. We bought him out a few years ago, back in 2008. So I've been pushing postcards for a long time, Tony. I think we've done over 1 billion postcards.
Wow.
And we still do about $45 million in postcards, or probably about 40 million in postcards every single year, and growing. And digital is one of our fastest growing add-ons.
Well, what kind of content works best, whether it's postcards or digital? Madison, you had mentioned the October, which is near to my heart because my birthday's in October. But things like National Car Care Month. I know we do that for our members, where we tell them, hey, it's National Car Care Month, comes up in October and April every year. Use this opportunity to promote your shop. Do things like telling your customers about these special events, does that type of content work, or are they more receptive to things like, I don't know, car care tips or maintenance tips or things like that, or specials that you might have? Any feel for what works the best when it comes to content?
It really depends. Like I mentioned, every location, every shop is different. So that's something that everyone needs to be A/B testing. Of course, month to month, my team goes in and makes strategic recommendations of, hey, we've seen this working really well in the industry over the last couple of months, or over the last couple of years. This is something we recommend for you to try out this month.
Interesting. And I just as a question, I was surprised to see sanitation on your list when they were talking about what, and that is obviously a throwback from the current COVID situation. I know we've had a lot of paradigm shifts in the industry, and a lot of shops are doing things very differently that they during the pandemic that they never did before. And some of those things, like contactless payments and loaner cars and pickup and delivery service, and in some cases even mobile service, are kind of those new things that we're just now starting to break through. Do you know of any other kind of basic paradigm shifts that have happened due to our experience over the last year or 18 months that have affected what you do, just like it's affected what the shops are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like on social media specifically,
Uh-huh.
it's been all about building that consumer trust factor. So using maybe that's in shop photos or videos, making sure that you are seen more as a friend, and
Mm-hmm.
that, hey, this is what it's going to be like when you're coming in. This is what you can expect. Because what we found was holding people back was that it was the uncertainty. They didn't know kind of, okay, am I going to roll up and this is going to be completely different from what it was pre-COVID. So just urging shops kind of down that path of helping them build that consumer trust factor back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it varied by market. You look at certain places around the country, and certain states were really more hardcore on the lockdowns and hardcore on the COVID issues. And then you've got other states that really saw no effect. I mean, we work with a lot of customers that had zero impact. COVID was never an issue, business as usual. And then you've got the extreme, right, where you've got lockdowns and you've got, everybody's so we've had some customers where we actually put masks on the mechanics in the pictures, that at the shops, kind of to Madison's point, so showing, hey, we're safe, right? You got managers with gloves on, you've got managers with masks on. So, we work with the individual location owner and make those recommendations that Madison said to kind of personalize it based on the market, based on that situation that shop owner is in, and what kind of messaging that shop owner feels like they need to convey to their audience.
Interesting. I see we're almost out of time, but I have one more question. Madison, this is for you, and Tim, you can chime in. You talked a lot about Google, and you had mentioned Instagram. Okay, all of us, and I'm a boomer. I know we don't get it. Okay, but the everybody is looking to attract the next generation into their businesses, obviously, and there are some interesting generational and I don't know, challenges when it comes to. I had to basically threaten my daughter to get her driver's license. Okay, but what sort of social media channels are being used by the younger generations, younger customers you're trying to attract? Is Google still a good one, or is it like my daughter says, I don't use Facebook because you're on it, kind of a thing? How does that work?
So Google is actually your highest converting digital tactic. And you have to think of Google search in the way of that you're already putting, or you're searching for people who are already searching for your business or a complementary business or even your competitor. And of course, the goal with Google is that you want to pop up number one or even number two of those keywords, right? People are always going to be searching on Google. That's not going away anytime soon. So keep in mind that, when we talk about PPC, that is actually your highest converting digital tactic. Now, we definitely recommend still focusing on Facebook and Instagram. What's great about those two platforms, Facebook actually owns Instagram. So when we do social media ads, we like to test both platforms and shift more of the budget towards the platform that's bringing in the most results, right? So
Right.
if you typically have or if you live in an area that is an older demographic, you're more likely to perform better on Facebook versus Instagram. Instagram has kind of become more of that younger demographic, but you'd be surprised. So we definitely recommend starting out with those two platforms and then evaluating and optimizing throughout the campaign.
Gotcha. Tim, I'll give you the last word. What haven't we talked about?
No, I just think that I would say, for shop owners to continue to be present in marketing decisions, continue to be adamant about looking at data and focused on results, and that there's always an opportunity to customize a program that fits their market, their budget, their needs, their expectations, and it's just a great time to be in auto repair. So I wish everybody the best of luck.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you both for your time today. This has been a fabulous presentation, by the way. Lots of great information, and I'm sure it'll be one of those highly downloaded recordings that we have. So we're going to have you guys back from time to time to expand on this. I know things change rather rapidly, but as we get more and more detail on the value of this type of thing, we should revisit it from time to time because I know a lot of shop owners could benefit from it. So again, Tim and Madison, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been talking about best secrets to grow your car care count with Tim Ross and Madison Sosby from Upswell Marketing. I hope you enjoyed your time today with the ASA webinar. Again, our next webinar, as soon as Trish changes the slide for me, there we go. We have these every Wednesday, by the way, our third Wednesday of the month. Our next one is on November 17th from noon to 1 p.m. Central on succession planning. Brian Satch, Vice President of Product and Content Development of the Automotive Training Institute, will be presenting a session on building a successful business strategy when you plan on succeeding yourself. I know a lot of people are getting close to retirement. There's lots of shops out there, very viable businesses that are on the market, and lots of people out there who are interested in getting into the market. Join us as Brian Satch from Automotive Training Institute covers important tips on what you need to know to get the most out of your business when the time comes to pass it on to new owners. Attendees will learn what the essential elements of succession plan are, what steps you need to take to prepare your business for sale, typical timeline for passing on a successful business, and how you establish fair value. Your registration is now open. You can go to asashop.org/asa-webinars and register for our Wednesday, November 17th webinar Wednesday on succession planning. As I mentioned, my name is Tony Mala. Among other things around here, I do the ASA podcast. If you haven't had a chance to listen to our ASA podcast, it's a general information session on what's now, what's new, and what's next in the business of automotive service and collision repair. It's a weekly podcast series from ASA with timely legislative information and news. You'll hear from industry insiders and leaders, and it's available 24/7, 365. You can listen now at asashop.org. Again, the ASA podcast. Give it a listen if you haven't already. Again, you have been listening to Best Secrets to Grow Your Car Care Count with Tim Ross and Madison Soseby. As I mentioned, a recorded session of the webinar is available to ASA members only. If you're not an ASA member, now might be a good time to think about it. You can join ASA by simply visiting our website at asashop.org or give us a call at 817-514-2901. And like Tim and Madison just did a masterful job explaining why you should be using social media to market your business and direct mail, we'll be happy to tell you about all the value that association membership can bring to your business. Again, Tim and Madison, thanks again for your time today. We'll talk to you next time, and we'll see everybody on the next ASA webinar Wednesday. Have a great day.